So I would like to thank Sunny. I'd like to thank Shanti Davis Center for hosting once again, center close to my heart. And I want to thank all of you for joining. So I'm hoping to make this time meaningful for you. And I had mentioned, and thank you so much, Shelley, is each center is a little bit different, but I just wanted to mention I do prefer, if it's possible for classes, if people turn their cameras on so we know you're here, because people start multitasking and doing other things, and the energy is there like that. So usually if I'm leading retreats, I don't care if you have your camera off because most people are with their eyes closed, but it's nice to kind of see you as well. So thanks so much. We have 6 sessions, so if you can pay attention, please, to the schedule for Shantideva, because we skip different weeks, and it was designed a little bit to kind of be a twice a month class. What I did find is some classes series I'm doing are every week, and that works for people. And then sometimes it's nice to have something a couple times a month, and you get a break and you get to think about it. And I'll send some exercises through Sunny that she can send out, if that's okay, Sunny, just like one email that you'll get in the middle, and it says, think about this. And so that would be great, just to make it a little bit more practical, and if it's helpful for you. So let's take a moment and let's start with one of the things in my own choosing kindness, but to develop the empathy, is to have things grounded with the right view, with the right view. So we have a profound part of the philosophy, as some of you know, in Buddhism called emptiness. Emptiness, things lacking or they're absent of having a concrete inherent existence. We're going to talk more about that. So don't worry if you don't know what that means right now. But having that right view coupled with the good heart is the premise of all we're doing in this tradition. But what I'm going to try to do is walk you through some practical applications. So some of you may have heard some of these before, some may be new, but one of those beginning spaces to work is in stilling and being quiet with yourself. Meditation. I'm labeling it meditation. You can label it whatever you like. So some people I know, years ago, I was at this class with a Hindu teacher who was talking about getting together with yourself. Getting together with yourself. I love that idea. I can't really fix myself until I'm aware of what's going on with my mind. And I can't really do that until I get together with myself. So I like that stillness, allowing myself to just be with whatever's arising in my mind. With whatever's arising in my mind. Okay, so everybody has the sound. Is there some problem with the sound? I'm not going to be able, while I'm teaching, to focus on the chat, so I'm going to leave that to Sunny. If there's anything I need to attend to in the chat, I'll ask you to have a look at that. Thank you. So let's just take a moment for this meditation. And again, find a comfortable space for your body. Many of you are familiar with this. The important part about it is to have the spine as extended as possible, as if your sides are long. You can sit in a chair. If you do, have your feet straight down, flat on the floor. Feel that grounding with the floor. You could be on a cushion or a sofa. You could be in a cross-legged position. All is good as long as you're comfortable. So as you allow your body to move into this position, just lightly close your eyes. And notice your breathing. Just simply notice it. And as you're noticing your breathing, thoughts may be arising in your mind, activities from the day, distractions. Just observe. There's nothing you need to fix right now. There's really nothing you need to do right now, but simply observe a simple inhalation, a simple exhalation. So this is really a treat you're giving yourself. You can do it every day. Some of you do, because we're often going and going and going. Let the peace, stillness, and spaciousness sift in through the inhalation. Let the busyness, the distraction, the doing move out with the exhalation. Sometimes the stillness can be unnerving in the beginning because we're not used to it. This is where we can do some deep work. So slowly as we practice, can become this little luxury space, the place where again, you get together with yourself. You get to be gentle with yourself or explore why you're not being gentle with yourself and how to better do that. It's a little indulgence for yourself that I find so necessary every day for balance, for my joy to grow. Feel the grounding with your cushion, your seat. Feel the earth beneath you supporting you, always supporting you. Like branches from the earth reaching up through your legs, through your body, holding you, gently holding you. You can almost feel like you're in the boughs of the tree, of those limbs holding you from the earth, gently rocking you in whichever way you need to be comforted, healed, supported. And every day can be different. Just feel that for a moment. So this space is always there for us every day. Beginning tool or technique to put in your toolbox, your Dharma toolbox. The practical applications. Okay. You get off balance during the day. You're agitated with someone. Just had a really bad meeting with someone. Some fear arose, some attachment, consuming your mind. Bring yourself to this space as best as you can. If you can't do it in the moment that the affliction is there, come back to your space, your safe space in your home. Create a space if you don't already have one. Once again, your chance to get together with yourself and figure out what's happening and make the necessary adjustments in a calm, peaceful, realistic, loving way. And let's think about our motivation right now. Second wonderful way to rebalance the mind. So we're at the beginning of the session. It's a great time to consider, why am I here in this session? What would I like to get out of the session, this series? And it's great to think about what we like to get out of it, of more kindness in our hearts, more balancing in our minds. So great to help ourselves. In this tradition, we're also focused on all living beings, not just ourselves, all living beings. So what if we could grow the positive aspects of ourselves, letting those bloom, expand, become more automatic, so we can help others develop those qualities in themselves. And one day, unlimitedly, be able to help all beings. What if you could consider that? Or if you'd like, roll that into your motivation. Take a moment now, setting that positive as you can intention. Just take a moment and set that motivation for our time together. So please relax, and when you're ready, slowly open your eyes. I want to read this quote from His Holiness the Karmapa. Some of you may have heard before. I read this sometimes in compassion courses that I teach about our interrelated experience. So this is a big help in growing the kind heart, in balancing our minds like that. We have to keep remembering this. Through the class, I'll keep reminding you as well. So I just want to read this quote. This was from his book that came out a few years ago. He had a book, the book is called Interconnected. Interconnected, Embracing Life in Our Global Society. Embracing life in our global society. And here's what he says. And so think about when you're trying to think about choosing kindness, and we talk about in this class empathy, emptiness, empowerment. How do I get to these things that sound good, but I don't feel totally integrated like that? So it really is related to our freedom. And I want you to think about freedom this week of what does freedom mean to you? Are you free? We're relatively free, right? But what does real freedom mean to you? And could you be freer? What would be being more free? What does that mean to you? And so here's what His Holiness the Karmapa says. It is possible and realistic for every person to experience real freedom. The reason we have not managed to do so is we lack an understanding of what real freedom is and how it can be achieved. We need the wisdom, that's our view, to distinguish the egocentric pursuit of self-interest from the pursuit of authentic freedom. And he goes on to say, when I hear what people say about freedom sometimes, okay, think about what you often hear people say. Okay, he says, it sounds to me like longing to live out the fantasy of being independent and absolutely autonomous individuals, being free of consequences and responsibilities, that is to say, exempt from the principle of interdependence. He says there's no such thing. We cannot exist outside causality or outside the connections of interdependence. So freedom cannot be a matter of escaping from those connections. Only freedom developed on the basis of a realistic view of who we are and how we relate to others can be authentic and extended universally to all. So if we acknowledge our interdependence and take into account these vast networks of interconnections in which our lives, actions are embedded, we will find that our freedom is inseparable from the freedom of all other people. And when we truly appreciate this fact, we experience interdependent freedom, a freedom that does not detract from others' freedom. This is a freedom we can all enjoy together without conflict. So I want you to, if you can look until our next class, just to double check, I just want to remind you, is February 7th. So we actually have 2 classes in a row, and then we have a 2-week break, just so you know. So for next week, so Sunny, I will send you some exercises in the next couple days. Thank you so much. What would you like to adjust to be free? Do you feel really free now? Will you feel that freedom in 20 years? Will anything change, do you think, in 20 years in your mindset? What do you think about the quote of interdependence? And look at our planet. I sometimes make a prayer, and you have to be careful for what you wish for, could I take rebirth on a planet that doesn't ever experience war? Okay, but I have to be cautious because I could end up in something, maybe something worse, no, but war to me is pretty serious. So, but again, so even though I'm relatively free where I'm living and I'm not dodging bombs, and I can get to the food market to get food and not feeling overtly threatened. But I don't like the idea that there's people being killed right now, across the planet. And it always seems to be that way. Sometimes it's not, it's in our cities, it's not that far from us. So there is that concept of not everybody's free. Just here in Santa Cruz County, there's people living on the streets in many of our places where we're living. New York, the people from New York, you know what that's like. And now it's winter there. So we used to teach in New York in person, and in the winter, and sometimes I do walks around the city, and I'd see people sleeping in, these big apartment buildings in the doorways, because they would let some homeless people sleep there because the doorways outside the doors were heated of the more luxury buildings. It was kind that they let some of the street people, homeless people, sleep there. It was horrible. I mean, it was freezing cold out, and they're just in a sleeping bag on the hard stone floor. And so, do you feel free when you have that in your experience of people not having enough to eat? You have to think about, what is the freedom? And then we have another kind of layer of freedom of, we have a number of things, but there's people that sometimes feel they need more things to be freer. And there's a constant striving. If I have more of this, it'll be better. If I have more of that, it'll be better. And then you get that, and then suddenly there's another thing. And there will always be another thing in samsara. And we are what's called in the desire realm. This particular realm we exist in is called the desire realm. And its nature is, I need to have something. I want that. I need that. The craving, the grasping. So watch your mind in those instances of, don't we have enough? In some ways, can't we make do with what we have? And sometimes those things prevent us from doing other things. So I just had an interesting conversation with someone recently, that actually a few people that are in this mode right now of wanting to travel and wanting to have the funds to travel or study or write a book or do something separate, but they're working. They have to work to kind of maintain an apartment and pay a mortgage and basic life things like that. So they're kind of exploring, but what happens in their householder life, meaning the house, the mortgage, there might be, well, there needs to be a lawn to take care of, but I see that my neighbors have certain gardens and I think I might need to do that. So then that necessitates some money to do that, whether they do it themselves or not, or somebody having, their home and then suddenly saying, well, I think I'm going to get a new bed for the home, right? And beds can cost, a few $1,000s, depending on what kind of bed you want. So, but that few $1,000s could fund a trip that they want to take. So are you satisfied with a bed you find on Facebook Marketplace that may be barely used, that could be fantastic for a fraction of the price? Or is that new bed, that's what I want. That's what I need. So it's always a balancing act in our realm. And what happens is these things load up on us, start cluttering our minds, and then prevent us from the practice we want to do, the study we want to do, and finding that balance. And the mind starts jittering away of all the little lists, all the little things, all the, let alone your other paperwork. For me, when I say other paperwork is, okay, now like got my little tax file ready, like I got to do the taxes. And then I have a thing with my healthcare that I need to take care of. And then there's another, those are kind of these basic paper necessities, I call them, that you have to deal with. So there's only so much time. So just looking at, so the first thing I would say is have the practice where you get together with yourself. So I'm balanced in this place often, and when I'm not balanced, I can come back to that space. So that first exercise right now is, if you don't have a regular meditation practice going, please set it up. Set up a space in your house. I've talked about this before, but make sure you're just sitting somewhere. You can sit on a couch. The thing with your couch is, if it's a couch where you eat or you watch TV or you watch movies, or it has other energy. And the tendency is it may not be as special, as still, as kind of secluded as you'd like that space to be. So find a little space. Don't elaborate for weeks and weeks. I haven't found the right space in my apartment. Fortunately, New Yorkers live in really small spaces. Those of you in New York, there's, make do the best. But the main thing is get yourself into that space. See how it feels. Maybe you decide you're sitting like this, but you need to turn the chair the other, 90 degrees or something. That feels better. Experiment a little bit, but mainly get to the seat. So some of you are already doing it. I know that. Some of you are new to the place. So it's mainly, and initially you may not know what to do. That's fine. It's just sitting down and being quiet. Again, an inhalation and exhalation. Start there. Can you just do that for 10 minutes? Because it becomes, again, that safe space I come back to. It's a safe space I'm returning to again and again when I'm unbalanced, to first of all, figure out what's happening. You might notice that every time I'm unbalanced, this person's around. They're an antagonizer. They're always poking at me. I feel nervous around them. I feel hostile around them. They're bullying me. Whatever, I feel pressure around them. I feel jealous around, you suddenly look at it. And here's the thing, whatever those negative things that come up in your mind, okay, gently embracing, learning to gently embrace them. That's kindness. It starts with yourself. So, people might say, oh, a nun, she, great. I have all those things coming up in my mind, right? All those things come up. And I just gently, one by one, okay, that's just, hey, this is how it is. Some days don't go very well, right? So I gently, and I've got my little space to kind of go back and give myself some, you're okay. I'm doing the best I can. Pick myself up out of the puddle. Good enough. I'm giving it my best shot. Right. And just assessing, it's just a little assessment. So what happened, And that's just a little gentle time for myself. So that, and then check on freedom. What do you want to do with freedom? And in that space, you might get 10 minutes in the morning. Have a good motivation for the day. Can you start a good motivation in the beginning of the day, which might encounter broader than yourself, all living beings? I'd like to help all living beings. In our tradition, the best way to get there, be a Buddha. Become a Buddha. Then you're unlimited in helping all living beings. You're omniscient, perfect place to help all living beings. So set that motivation or put it into your own words, whatever it means to you, but some positive cushion for the mind to get you going. Years ago, some of you remember, you probably don't remember, but there were these things that crossed water called hovercrafts. It was a vehicle to cross water, small channels of water, called a hovercraft. There were probably other names for them. But I had the good fortune to live in Paris for 1 year of school, 1 year of university, and I was going to England to see my sister at times. So they had what was called the boat train, which was a laborious, overnight journey that was horrible. I mean, now they made this tunnel through the English Channel. Amazing. In 3 hours, you're in Paris, like right in the center of Paris. It's fantastic. It's so easy. But before we took the boat train, it was an overnight journey, and you had to cross from a train to the border in France, the boat, till you loaded onto the boat. You were up all night. You got to the other shore, and then you had to take a train there to get to London. And it basically took all night. And so then they had these things called hovercrafts. So you could still take a train to the border, but the hovercraft went over the channel quicker. And what it did is it rose up on a cushion in the water. And then it was that on the cushion it went. That's why it sped across really fast. It was much faster. The motivation is that cushion. And the cushion protects you from all the bumpy things all day long, all the ruts and the potholes and stones and everything else you're going over, all those delusions that are coming up in the mind. So I got that motivation. And what happens is when I hit a rut, when I go over a big boulder, and I feel that bumpy ride, what's called a bumpy axle, is dukkha. Dukkha, okay, in Sanskrit, dukkha, suffering. Suffering, it means bumpy axle, basically. So that cushion keeps me above that from the motivation. Can we pattern ourselves that when I hit a bump, can I remind myself about my motivation and reestablish a motivation? Check how that goes this week. Reestablish. That's a third tool. Reestablish your motivation. Mostly we set a motivation in the morning and we never think about it again. That's okay. It's the best we can do. But this is a way of training. Maybe you have a little alarm on your phone every couple of hours and title it whatever you want to title it, motivation, whatever it is, or uplift, or cushion, or buoyancy, happiness, joy, whatever you call it. It's a little mindfulness bell. Okay. It's your little mindfulness bell. So Thich Nhat Hanh's community, some of you are aware of. Thich Nhat Hanh, great Vietnamese master who passed away, amazing being, right? And he had different communities around the world. And I met a number of his students years ago at a monastic conference that we had at our center in California. And they were all about mindfulness. And they had a mindfulness bell in their community every hour. And we tried it in our community for a while. It was really nice. So every hour a bell would ring that the whole community would hear, a gong. And whatever you're doing, like we could be in the middle of the class, all of us would have to stop whatever we're doing and just reflect for like 1 minute. Just watch your mind for 1 minute. It's a beautiful practice. It's a beautiful practice. And one of the funny things that happened at the conference with this group of people, I think 3 or 4 of them came up from his community in around San Diego. So we decided to have a group photo. There were maybe 30 to 40 of us there, monastics, and from all different traditions. At Vajrapani Institute, at the stupa, we decided we'd have a group photo. And then they said, oh, we need to go get our ceremonial robes if there's a group photo. They didn't have all their outer robe on. So we said, okay, we'll wait. So some of their rooms were quite far, so they went to get their robes. And finally we're waiting and waiting, and the senior monk says, well, can somebody go get them? Like, we need to go, and can we get the photo? And then somebody says, oh, I see them coming. So there were 3 of them coming, and they walk mindfully. So they were walking like that. Like, it was the funniest thing. And they were very mindfully on their way back. They had their robes on. They looked really nice. And then the senior monk called over and he said, come on, he said, hurry up. We're waiting. And then he said, hurry up. And they said, we are. And they didn't increase their pace once, not at all. That was them mindfully hurrying. But it was great. For me, it was like a great message of, let's just bring it back to that sometimes. That's just what we need to do. There's many instances you can build in some mindfulness, okay, which I believe helps promote kindness. It slows our mind down, honestly. Don't panic that you're not going to get enough done during your day. I get more done by being more mindful. I get more done, okay? And here's many instances. Those of you that drive at times, sometimes you're waiting at a red light. It's a great moment for mindfulness, So you're obviously watching the light. You might check in with just quick glance around you, but it's kind of like, how's my mind waiting at the light? I love those moments, actually. You're in traffic. How's my mind in traffic? And another quote from Thich Nhat Hanh. This is for people that drive, but when your car goes fast, and he spoke really slowly, one of the talks I went to, when your car goes fast, you go fast. So it helped me drive more slowly, where I'm more mindful. I'm able to, you're waiting in a doctor's office. New Yorkers, you're waiting in line at Trader Joe's. I know what those lines are like, right? Waiting in line at Trader Joe's. Just you mindfully check in. Somebody needs a little bit of help near you. Somebody wants to know where the milk is. Somebody maybe needs to get in front of you because they're really jammed. You can be pleasant in line. Because I'm mindful in line, it reminds me to lighten up. This is a path to get enlightened again, not enheavied. Lighten up. That means in line, I can be pleasant waiting in line. Some people are impatient. That reverberation, those ripples of impatience go out. It makes other people anxious. Think about it. It's not just about you and how you feel in line. What are you vomiting out on others around you while you're waiting in line, while you're walking down the street, while you're entering a shop, while you're ordering your meal? It's all about us, isn't it? Okay. So this kindness, empathy, compassion, certainly the interconnectedness that we're going to talk about with emptiness, that is Holiness of Karmapa was talking about. There's all these other beings that we're moving around with. So if you want a big jump on your exercises this week, how much can you consider others this week rather than yourself? What percentage would you like to direct that focus outward? Okay, some of you are more advanced here. Okay, so this is your big exercise. You have a week, and we're going to do it the rest of the class, but you have a week. You know, get your mind together of how much are you looking at yourself, me, my experience, I'm going out for a walk now, I'm waiting in line, I need to get my groceries, I wanted to get that thing. It's all me, me, me. Okay, when you go out, the next time you're out there on the street, some of you I know are New Yorkers, so can you think about everybody else you're passing? What's their experience? You come up to the curb with somebody, you're waiting at the red light. Have a little glance. What's their experience? You ever have people that they have to get in front of you on the curb, so they're gonna let them go. Like, just take that focus. New York City is a great place to practice. Bring that. You walk into a store. Think about when you sit down and order something. You get a takeout order. New Yorkers are always getting takeout food. I don't know any New Yorkers that cook. Okay, I'm kidding, but rarely. They have little tiny kitchens, so they can't cook. Every time I stay in New York, you know, one of the students or somebody was, you know, lovely. Everybody's wonderful there. Fantastic. All the students, the center's wonderful. But wherever I stay is often I get an array of takeout menus left. It's so cute. So when you order, now some people order on the phone or online, okay? Let's say you go pick up something or somebody delivers something. What about them? Let's focus on them, okay? You know, that real connection behind the thing. Today I was like really focused on these connections with people. And there was something where I had a medical appointment this morning and they were an hour late. I had to wait an hour. So you go, I had to wait an hour. Me, you know. But so they were, you know, I kind of at one point at 40 minutes, I kind of said, I just kind of reminded the guy and I said, I'm just kind of wondering, but it's again, how do you want to interact like that? Do you want to say, hey, what's the deal? I'm waiting here 40 minutes. Or, excuse me, I'm just wondering, will it be soon? Or you do have my appointment. I'm just wondering what's happened. Okay. And then he's very apologetic, but we have a nice little exchange, nice interlude, you know, and then the doctor's there. He's sorry that, you know, I'm waiting, and, you know, it was about an hour waiting. And then, but somehow kindness, because I chose kindness, it was all positive with the doctor, and then this technician, and then the guy at the counter who was fielding all these people angry because it was late. Everything was late. What could he do? It's not his fault. And he, you know, he's like, I'm sorry. So again, it can be pleasant. And then I get back in my car happy, not agitated. I saw another guy kind of storm out, you know, well, you know, what's his day like? Now he's got this, he just tightened up everything here, heart, brain, everything, all the muscles, everything contracts. So every time you have delusion, you contract, your subtle energy system contracts. And for those of you that practice Tantra, there's a whole series of winds and channels and drops. And so you've got knots around these kind of subtle channels and things like that. Every time you have delusion, the knots constrict, okay? Nothing moving properly. And that's where disease comes from, dis-ease. So think about it. It's beneficial for you to choose kindness, but it's great for the planet. It deflects war. Everything calms down. So think about the ripples that you're making this week, and let's focus on others. Those of you at that level that want to do that. Okay, so let's talk about how the Buddha lived and how just orienting ourselves with because I want to bring in the Noble Eightfold Path. Many of you have heard of that. Let's see, where are my notes here? And another thing I just wanted to mention is we have fundamental goodness, which I am going to mention also relates to something we call in Buddhism, Buddha nature. You've heard this before, Buddha nature. What is Buddha nature? It's a potential. Every being with a mind, so it's all of you, has to develop into a fully realized being, a Buddha. Buddha nature. It doesn't mean you're a Buddha yet. We're human beings, we make mistakes, okay? But because you have Buddha nature, it means you're fundamentally good. And every being with a mind has Buddha nature. So if you want to give everyone the benefit of the doubt, we are good. Everybody is fundamentally good. And what it does is it creates less negativity and agitation in your mind in relation to others you don't like. Okay? So I could say Vladimir Putin is fundamentally good, and I believe that. You know, I think he has thicker veils of delusion that cover over his Buddha nature, but I'd like to give him the benefit of the doubt. I think beneath that, there's the gleaming gem of Buddha nature. That's there, that there is a fundamental goodness that one day will develop into a Buddha. All the terrorists, all the leaders of totalitarian regimes, all the murderers, okay? Because what happens is if you get to hate them, okay, which a lot of people on the planet do, if you get to other them, make them other, you have an adverse response to them. Okay, it only disturbs your mind. Okay, and anyone in your immediate vicinity that ripples out onto. Think about it. Really think about this week. Okay, I'm constricting my own mind. I'm creating habits of more hatred and aversion in my mind because I said I hate that person. I hate him. He's awful. He's terrible. Like that. So just think about that. Think about the, and on a funny note, on a lighter, but this is kind of serious stuff. We are fundamentally good. Please think about that on your cushion, on your seat. Okay, when you're feeling forlorn, when you're feeling depressed and anxious, kind of lost, that you had a bad day, you're fundamentally good, as is everybody else. As is everybody else. However, because we're humans, we make mistakes. That's the natural course of being a human. We make mistakes. So if I can quickly forgive myself for the mistake, but learn from it, no, I don't intend to do it again, if I can help that, learn from it, but to be gentle with myself. And then somebody else makes that mistake, then I'm gentle with them. I'm not bashing them and bullying them. But be careful, because the world we live in, it's tricky. It's very much into othering. And even on a mundane thing. Okay, so because I'm a Philly girl, because I'm from Philadelphia, as you know, some of you may know, some not. I didn't used to follow American football. I really don't follow it much. But because my team, got into this final game that I think is in a couple of weeks. So I started to get messages from people, and then, obviously it perked my interest. Oh, there's a game. And here's the game. And the game is one team loses. And so people were sending me these clips and videos, friends of mine that were at the game on Sunday. And you hear people yelling at the other team in not nice ways. Okay. It was played in Philadelphia, right? So you hear these things. And what it does is this stuff conditions your mind to say, like, this is okay behavior. All my fellow compatriots, brothers and sisters in Philadelphia, are acting that way. So I guess it's okay for me to act that way. These are people that are rational, they're responsible, they're parents, they're dutiful daughters and sons, and good people, I would say, and they're yelling out and acting that way. So you get a message, it's okay to do that. Whether it's a political rally, or whether, you get conditioned, you can't help it. This is planet Earth with all the delusions everybody has, human beings, human beings. So I found it really interesting of just the mindset. So then, of course, and because I have some New Yorkers here, I have to. So a very dear student in New York allows me to use his New York Times, offered me his New York Times, as a second person, his New York Times account. So I look at the New York Times sometimes on my phone as a news source. I really like it to see what's going on in the news. So of course, they have an article about Philadelphia, being a Philadelphia fan. We have a terrible reputation, by the way, but there's a photo of people at that game. And it's a terrible photo of Philadelphians. It's like us in our worst, you see people yelling with their, so I just laugh because it kind of solidifies this nature of this sports mentality and people, but it's just othering, it's just duality. We have it in many things, whether it's racism, this person's black, this person's white, this person's tall, this person's short, thin, fat, rich, poor, because of the neighborhood you live in, because of the kind of vocation that you're in, all these things, so again, interconnectedness, we're all in this together. We're all in this together. Okay. The Noble Eightfold Path. We're familiar with this. We've heard about this. The Noble Eightfold Path is the Buddha got enlightened. Many of you know the life story. I'm not going to go into that. The Buddha got enlightened, Indian prince got enlightened in Bodh Gaya, India. And it took about 7 weeks till the conditions came together for him to teach. And then he did teach and kind of taught the Four Noble Truths, that there is suffering, there's a cause to the suffering, there's an end to the suffering, and there's a path to the end of the suffering. And then he moved out this basically 8 factors. And basically 8 factors through of how to live your life then, on how to get to enlightenment by living your life in this way. So I wanted to talk about these as it relates to us practically. And we're going to practice these through the class as well. And you can continue to practice them as well. So there's different rollouts of the Noble Eightfold Path. And let me just give you a list of them right now. So right understanding, right thought, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. I want to talk more about these. Okay. So and how they're often, they're split up in different ways. I'm going to divide them into 8 factors aimed at promoting and perfecting the 3 essentials of Buddhist training and discipline. 3 essentials of Buddhist training and discipline, also called the 3 higher trainings, the 3 higher trainings. Anybody want to unmute and tell me what the 3 higher trainings are? Some of you know this. 3 higher trainings. Anybody remember? Okay, starting with ethical discipline, number 1. Ethical discipline. Does that give you a hint to the last 2? Sheila, I'm picking on you. Sheila Odyssey, or Sunny, or Shelley might know these. So concentration, thank you. And then wisdom, okay? Ethical discipline, concentration, and wisdom. I know in this path, in Buddhism, there's the 3 of this and the 6 of that and the 7. I know there's a lot, so just relax, don't worry. But 3 higher trainings, I'm going to divide up these 8, the Noble Eightfold Path in this. We're going to start with ethical conduct. Ethical conduct. Sometimes called Shila, actually called Shila or Sila in my Sanskrit's not very good. Ethical conduct, let's look at this. Let's look at the first one here. And I'll mention that under ethical conduct, What's kind of, and when I say ethical conduct, the people think, is this some kind of moral trip? No, this is just how we balance certain activities, okay, in a way that's going to promote happiness for you. That's what ethical conduct's about. Okay. We get so far away from that. We think of rules. Somebody's making rules, and that restricts my freedom. In Buddhism, it's the reverse. The more vows you take, if you learn them and keep them properly, the freer you get. Seriously. The more vows you take. So first you have basically lay vows you can take, or you could say before that, refuge precepts. Not as strong as vows, but refuge precepts. You can go through a refuge ceremony. I give refuge sometimes. You can get a new name. But you take these precepts. Then you would have lay vows you could add on to that. 5 lay vows generally you live by. Not killing, not stealing, not lying, no sexual misconduct, no intoxicants. Okay. And you can decide, other than the not harming, you can take the rest of the 4 if you'd like. Some people take 2 or 3 at a time. Some people take all 5. So then you have that level of vows. Then people add bodhisattva vows if they'd like to become a Buddhist saint, which is all about cherishing others more than yourself. They're practical vows you can learn before you take them. There's 18 root bodhisattva vows and 46 auxiliary kind of branch vows that help you keep the root vows. Bodhisattva vows. Okay. Then you have tantric vows if you choose to take tantric initiation. And they're at a different level. So if you learn all those vows, then you can have monastic vows. You can be a novice monastic, you could be fully ordained, like that. Fully ordained have many, many, many vows. I think nuns, 364 vows, a lot of vows. If you keep them well, they're designed to get you enlightened automatically, if you keep them well. So you're freer. So ethical conduct, for instance, here's the first of the 8 Noble Path relating to ethical conduct. I want you to look at this week. Right speech. Right speech. And so some of you studied the 10 non-virtues that we avoid in the karma classes. We avoid 10 unfortunate states of being, and one of them, and 4 of those relate to your speech. So if you're looking at right speech, you're going to be abstaining from lying, obviously. You're going to be speaking the truth, okay? And speaking the truth wisely, reasonably, with your wisdom, tactfully. Okay, it's not blurting stuff out that you know will hurt someone, okay? That doesn't mean you're telling a lie to save them. There's ways silence can be a response. The second one is right speech is avoiding backbiting, slander, talking about people behind their back, talk that brings about hatred and division and disunity and disharmony among groups of people, among individuals, like that. So divisive speech, we would call it. A third speech, we avoid harsh speech, which includes rude, impolite things and words, malicious, abusive language. You get the idea. Harsh speech, yelling at somebody, cursing at somebody. And the fourth one is idle, useless, meaningless chatter or gossip. So those 4 of speech are in the order of harshness, of heaviness, starting from telling lies being the worst. The 4th, gossip, being the lightest. The problem with gossip is we do it all the time. If I went on and on and on and told you about I only watched a little part of the football game on Sunday, told you about that and every play and every little thing, that constitutes meaningless speech. There's no point. There's no benefit really in your hearing in that. If you go on and on about the movie that you saw and the plot twist and the person's really not interested, meaningless speech. Some people speak nervously, just constant like that. Okay. So when you abstain from these forms of wrong and harmful speech, you're naturally going to speak the truth, use words that are friendly, that bring people together, pleasant, gentle speech. Okay, so you want to watch that, not to be, your speech will suddenly take a different quality. People will be lit over time. People can listen to you more. heed what you're saying. Okay, so a great thing to work on this week. Watch your speech. So you get a lot of exercises, a lot of different exercises. Okay, and then what I wanted to mention now is other practical ways to overcome challenges in life. And one thing I want to just interact and ask you right now, in choosing kindness, in general, some of your attraction to the class, what you'd like to get out of the class, okay? And what's most challenging for you right now on the planet right now? What's going on? What are you struggling with? If people care to say, feel free to unmute. You can also put in the chat. Nothing? Sunny, please.
I've minimalized my life so that I don't have a lot of the distractions that a householder would have. I know I'm finished with a house. I'm older, so I don't worry about a house. I don't worry about a career. My children have grown up. My husband passed away. So really, I'm in a perfect position to saturate my life with Dharma. And yet it's all in my mind with all of this outer circumstances that are perfect for practicing. I still find myself just as in my mind, just as preoccupied. So, yeah. In terms of this course, how can this course help me to further my practice in my mind?
Well, almost not, it's in your mind for one, and then I'd also say in practical reality, how to overcome the habit of not getting to it. I just met with somebody else this weekend, much older than you, who was saying had all these other things going on. Her husband's passed and all these other things, and now this is it. She's got nothing left of, and it's so again, doing these practices. If you're doing DB courses, I would say for one, more study. Figure out a study program of which course you want to do and make sure you complete the courses and do it. Do the readings on them, do the meditations with them, because suddenly it activates. What happens is sometimes we just sit in once a week and you listen to the course and you go, yeah, I'm going to do the readings. I'll watch that extra video they said, but we never get to it. So now you have no other excuses. So time to get to it. So make the extra effort if you can. And I think that relates to all of us. Make that extra effort of what, and some people I know, and I've had friends that have mentioned this to me, they signed up for a course. It could be any course, Buddhism or other, right? But when they get home, the habit of streaming the mundane video is more dominant than watching the more meaningful show, right? Or somebody else is talking about that other mundane, I don't know what the show is, the police show or the other thing that everybody's watching. So, and that's why centers are so important. So I know that we're online where we can't meet at the center and start talking about, like I just got motivated because, okay, I just happened to find this. This is the life story of Lama Tsongkhapa. Okay. Now the reason it came into my hands is another friend of mine just read it. And it came out a couple of years ago. But so Lama Tsongkhapa is our patron saint of our tradition. He lived from 1357 to 1419. And I've, over the years have learned a lot about his life. Okay, but I've never read but this friend read it and she brought it up in another class. And she said, well, I just read this book and I was really moved and I didn't know that he did this so a little spark went off in me and I went, oh, and I'm not collecting books anymore. I'm collecting them on my devices. I can't keep books anymore. But somehow, all of a sudden, within 2 weeks, the book came across me. Somebody was like, I'm getting rid of books. Like, have a look. Is there anything there? And I found this on the thing. And I said to them, do you mind if I take this one? So here, suddenly, so again, if you're around people that are reading the helpful things you're reading, studying the helpful things you want to study, doing meditation, But if you're meeting and talking to them, and that's what's hard with the centers not being fully open yet, is I'm not bumping up. I happened to catch this person on Zoom when she said she was reading this book. So again, it's helpful to share, meet somebody here in this in our little Zoom room. If you find somebody that lives near you, go and meet for coffee and talk, and make sure you talk about Dharma when you're meeting. You know, don't talk about football, talk about Dharma. And so, but what I'm saying is it ignites little things where you go, oh, you're doing that course? Let me check that out. I'll at least sign up for one of the courses. I'll see if I can get through one course. Because some courses, it's 8 weeks of something. If you're working, it's hard to get to the things. But again, can I kind of say, I'm going to watch that other show on the weekend, but I'm only going to do it after I watch that, the Dharma video I was supposed to watch, or whatever that self-help one you intended to do. So again, the problem, Sunny, with a lot of us is we don't have the discipline. And the thing is, I can't make you do it. Like you kind of know already what you need to do. So it's just kind of, can you manage to push through the old habit of what gets, and notice, I think for everyone, notice what gets in the way. What's getting in the way for you? Because if you said you have every perfect thing, then what are you doing instead? And see if you can reduce a little bit of that time and then say, okay, let me do the courses. The other thing is sometimes, I'm not talking about you, Sunny, but some of us sabotage ourselves. And what I mean by that is we'll be like, oh, I'm not really able to, that course is over my head. I won't be able to do it. You know, and I know people that sometimes will talk themselves out of something and they're perfectly it's perfectly appropriate for them to do the course or at least try it where you get some seeds planted and the next time around you can do the course again and you get much more out of it. So it's okay to just put your toes in. Maybe you don't understand it all, but make the effort if you can. Do the readings as well. Watch the extra videos, do the meditations, because people aren't engaging as deeply in some of the courses like that. And as a result, and here's a word I'll use, is sometimes we dabble, right? And we're not really getting deep into the thing. I don't know if that speaks to you. Possible to a little bit slowly.
Yes, you described it very well. Thank you.
Because Sunny, I know you a little bit and I can say, you can do this. You can do this. You have an incredible space to do it, incredible intelligence and wherewithal. Absolutely. You're a strong person that can. So again, and the only thing is you can try your best and do it with breaks, do it balanced in a way that you know. So again, we engage with something where, oh, for 7 hours today, I'm going to do that course. But what if I just put aside an hour a day when I get home? Maybe an hour 3 times a week. That's 3 hours a week I'm going to take this course because I'm going to devote an hour Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Break it down, make it realistic so that you can build it in. But then you have to be strong to get to it. Make a deal with yourself. 1 hour of that video, and then I get to have the ice cream. It's okay. So sorry, I was going to make a list of, world issues. We had another class on choosing kindness, and people had all this lists of stuff they were toppled by in the world and stuff. Anything like that going on for people? Because we'll address this as we go through the class. If there's anything else that, oh, here we go. Political response with compassion. Yeah. Okay. Kindness is my greatest challenge. I tend towards snarky at best. Okay. You're not the only one who's snarky. Okay. I try to follow myself with may all beings be free from suffering to balance the snark. Okay. So let me make a note of this. Who else experiences this at times? Right? This is a big one for people. Absolutely. How do we again get the other? And where was I recently? And somebody had a whole tirade about conservative people. Now, I don't know what your political. There could be people that categorize themselves here as conservative, but somebody had a whole thing about. So there's an othering. There's suddenly. So let's talk about that when that happens. We'll look at that in the future as well. What other things are going on? Anything else anybody cares to mention? Please. Get
Ti-
your
it,
name. Wiley. Yep.
it's tied to the political thing, but what I was going to say was issues of racism, and hearing, dealing with people who express racist views and that sort of thing.
Yes. Yeah. Huge one. I mean, just lost another poor black guy. What was he doing? Going home? I mean, it just rips my heart out. Just horrible. I mean, I just can't imagine, you're driving home and you get ripped out of your car and beaten to a pulp. Just unbelievable. So racism is a huge one. Our responses to it. How do you keep yourself balanced? How do you keep yourself spacious when, all the different phases of racism and all the other isms, right? All the other isms. Shelley, did you have something?
How about violence? To find compassion with all this violence. Every time we turn on the radio, there's another shooting.
Yeah. It's like we're in a science fiction movie, isn't it? And now it's kind of normal, isn't it? Yeah. Okay. Political response with compassion, racism, violence.
Reproductive rights.
Reproductive rights, yeah. Which also kind of affects freedom. And I would even add also human rights, which relates to racism and reproductive rights. And yep. Anything else people would like to look at these few weeks?
Amy, to me, there's like this all pervasive hopelessness. And it's like overwhelming because everyone's nothing matters, nothing we do matters, nothing's going to change. I hear that constantly. And they call me, I'm airy fairy. I go, and it's very difficult.
Yeah. So, and the other thing I noticed with that, many of you probably noticed this. So this COVID thing has really wreaked a massive kind of shadow, in a sense. It's going to take us a while to shift out of this. So first of all these people died, which was horrible. All these people got sick. Some of them are still experiencing sickness from it. Some people got reinfected. So there's still this kind of creeping, like that illness, pandemic. But it's, and the thing, the one, it's just hard to say blessing from it, is that it affected the entire world. It wasn't just an American virus or so at least we all kind of realize this interdependence. We're all in this together. But again, the privileged world did better than the poor world in a way. I mean, the States lost a lot of people just because of mismanagement and things, but people that had access to vaccines, a lot of people, we had the best vaccines and blah, blah, and all that. Okay. So, but what I found is it's left people that I know have never been anxious or depressed ever, has left them with anxiety and depression. And this hopelessness, Linda, that I noticed, that there's like, just because we all got shaken up inside and everything got interrupted, people lost businesses, let alone their lives, but businesses got interrupted. You hear about the office space in Manhattan and nobody's working there and everybody's working remotely and there's not enough people to hire. Land of Medicine Buddha is having that experience. And it goes on and on and on. The supply chain, every time I go to the store, there's things I look for every week in the store, like a food item that they haven't had for weeks. Like, it's kind of like a joke. I go in and I'm kind of like, I wonder if they're going to have the such and such this week. And they never do. And it's been months, and then one day it pops up, and it'll be there for like a day and then it's gone for another 3 months. So there's these little weird, so I find that hopelessness is also, so we're going to talk more about how do I keep the mind buoyant in that around other people. And we've all been subjected to it at times. What I'm noticing lately is I went through a bad patch in the last year when I moved to Land of Medicine Buddha. The center was really taken down in a pretty sad way. I haven't seen a center this bad. And everybody that kind of touched it got tossed, was just kind of like not knowing what to do. And the center, There are many things. Okay. And it happens to centers. It's not unusual. It's a large residential retreat center. So it costs a lot in California to run this place, and on and on. And the fires and all the other things going on, you know, and now we've kind of turned a little corner. We still have a ways to go, but I realized in my kind of, you know, sinking and just feeling really lousy all the time, and I just realized how that was reverberating out to people that I know and love and care about, and anybody. And then I kind of, you know, after a while was a little bit like, okay, kind of tired of this story, like, because it's not helping other people. So again, if I could turn the mind outward, how is this affecting other people that I encounter? And I know for me, having a few friends that have been struggling for years is, every time I speak with them, it's a deluge from their side of negative, negative, negative. And I realize how it affects me. So then I realize, oh, I'm doing this to other people, or I don't want to do this to other people. It's different if you're just looking for help once in a while, if you're going through a challenge, that's different. But I just felt like, you know, it was kind of so difficult here. But again, the focus on others. And then I went, you know, I can do better than that. I can get my mind, and I've got so many advantages. So here's one of the things I want to mention now, this little practice. And I've also got kind of 10 ways to overcome challenges in life. And I've got a 4-step method for overcoming challenges. I want to start this 4-step method. Here's an easy thing. We all know this. I've talked about this before. This is number 1 for me. And I'm not kidding. I do this every morning. I was doing it when I was having a hard time, but I don't think I was doing it very well, because our practices reach plateaus, meaning you're doing the same thing every day over and over. So you're not really doing it anymore. It's so rote that I've forgotten the essence of it. And one of them is practicing gratitude. Okay. We've all heard this before, the G word, gratitude. So, but I'm not kidding. And what I mean is so I notice that I have this little 2-minute practice I do in bed every morning before I get out of bed. After I wake up, is really to experience the goodness of my life. And there's a lot. I have a totally blessed life. Absolutely. Unbelievable. Have I had problems? Of course I've had problems. Do I have challenges? Of course, right? But incredibly blessed life this time around, right? And what was happening is I was just having a little 2-minute, oh yeah, all the great circumstances of my life, oh, my good qualities. And I wasn't really truly reflecting on it. It was just kind of an automatic, I wasn't there really merged with it, really thinking about it. So sometimes we need to step up our practice. So if I say gratitude, okay, so we tend to exist in our comfort zones. So when something new happens, when something new is presented, you might feel like, oh, change. That's hard to deal with. I don't know, you know, but you get gratitude going, you can reframe your definition of any challenge at all. So suddenly, and let me go back a year of, oh, Land of Medicine Buddha, it's so difficult. I could say it's so difficult, it's so difficult, it's so difficult. And I could say, oh, these people I'm working with are being rude, or they're being unkind, but when I really looked at every person I was working with, I really like and respect all of them, and they're incredibly dedicated. Really good people. Really good people. I can't think of one from the past year and a half that I didn't feel was a good person. Really good person, okay? So then I want to look at it. Is it them? Is it the surroundings? Is it the land? Is it... Buddhism says it's coming from your own mind. Lama Zopa Rinpoche's major teaching. Everything comes from your mind. So choosing kindness, it's a path of me taking responsibility for my mind, So the difficulties come. There were times I'd say, and I say and really mean it, this is really good purification for me. I know I need this, you know. And these things that appear, okay, because of emptiness, they appear in one way. It doesn't mean they exist in that way. They're appearing to me. I might say it's appearing as negative. It's appearing as negative. Have I ever said that thing to somebody else in that tone? That appears to me to be rude or insensitive or kind of offhand or ignoring me, or have I ever done that to other people? I have, right? I just cleaned that away, just swept it away. Thank you. Or thank you for showing me my mind, because I see the potential of this center, and then there's other things about it. I wake up in a gorgeous redwood setting. It is really beautiful here. There's incredible shrines all over the property. Okay. This is one of the quietest places I've ever lived. This particular cabin that I'm living in. I get a sweet little cabin to myself. It has electricity, heat, internet, hot water. What's the problem? Okay. So again, reframing what's going on. I can stay with the hopelessness and the depression. It will, and the thing is, and here you go, it will always be like this. No, it won't, because it's changing all the time. Everything's impermanent. Everything's impermanent. I've seen centers in really bad ways. I've seen them turn around and they become these shining, amazing gathering places for people to work with their minds. Amazing. Land of Medicine Buddha. I've seen it in its heyday. We can get there again. We're moving in that direction, in actually a new, fresh way that the center really never had before. So sometimes things need to kind of totally collapse. The phoenix rising out of the ashes. Let it come back in a new, refreshing way. That's exciting to me. So again, it was a stale practice of gratitude, but then suddenly I went, I'm not really doing the gratitude properly. Let me really reflect on what is positive in this experience. And there's a lot. And then every once in a while that hopeless negative stuff comes in. That's not what I'm focused on right now. Thanks very much. I don't need that right now. Okay. So slowly, gratitude. Can you do that this week or throughout the rest of the class, but in a really genuine way? And get creative. Think about some new things you're grateful for. Think about, and what about your own qualities? Think about something else you haven't been able to acknowledge about yourself that's really positive. Something in a balanced way. Some kind thing you did last week for somebody. Some way you went out of your way in the past year for somebody. And really feel that, really experience that, because that starts to dismantle that hopelessness and the depression and anxiety. And it takes time. It takes time. Okay, so I'm just going to review a little bit, and I want to ask if there's any particular questions right now of anything I'm talking about, and any other things people wanted to add about. Okay, patience with other people. Great one. Okay, kindness towards those who manipulate you. We will talk about that. And let's see if there's another challenge. Okay, when it's easier to extend compassion outward rather than inward, either too hard or too easy on the self, lacking balance, mindfulness. Yep. So I'm going to call that a lack of self-compassion. I have to say, this past year, self-compassion is what saved me here, let alone these other practices. But I have a habit of neglecting that to a degree, especially when I'm working hard. And something from the last center, that was my message from the last center, was Rinpoche was trying to get me to do it in a different way. And suddenly here I went, okay, I think I got a little bit of that message. And I started doing those other specific self-kindness practices, real self-compassion things, self-care, I'll call it, in a variety of ways. It's been really, really helpful for me to balance my mind and being okay with it. Being okay. One example I'll give you is if I decided I'm going to go out for a long walk in the afternoon and I made time for it with all my other work done, all the other classes, and I maybe when meeting a friend, we're going to go for a walk, I might be doing a walk by myself, but I had it scheduled. And then what would happen is a meeting pop up, somebody go, oh, can I just catch you for half an hour? And I'd immediately go, oh, okay. And then I go, oh, I can't do it. I can't do it after 4 because I've got something else planned. And I would stick to it. And I was so proud of myself that I'd stick to it. But that's a new pattern for me. That's a new experience for the most part when I'm working. this hard, and it's really paid off. And because then I'm able to meet with the person with more balance, that I got the walk in. And the walk isn't that I got my walk in, it's about me. It was really, I know it will balance me for the work I have to do here for others. So that's why I'm going to take the walk. So the bigger motivation is there. It's not just I'm going out for a walk because I want to. It's my walk, you know. And occasionally there have been things that interrupted the walk. And I will again weigh it. I'm going to talk about how you observe and decide. I'm going to weigh it. Okay. And then I might choose, like, okay, you know what? I'll go out for a shorter walk. I'll go out a little later. This person really needs help right now. Okay. But I don't want to do that all the time, because I notice the balance that the walk's given me to then have more space and more capacity. So this is again about getting to know yourself, getting to know yourself. So a lack of self-compassion, and I'll just say balanced self-care. How's that, Mary?
Excellent.
Okay. Any last questions or comments before we finish?
Venerable?
Yes.
Yeah. Before we finish, before it gets to be 8:30, I want to tell everybody I'm putting up in the chat some information about how to give Dana to you, that there are, different methods, Venmo or what, if
Oh,
anyone.
thank you, Sunny. You could even do it in the last class if you want. That's okay. But usually at the end, I mean, just the protocol, and it's really not obligatory, but Shanti Davis Center's very generous, and they often have a way you can offer to teachers through Shanti Davis Center at the end, which you can do. But some centers, what normally happened, some of you know, is when we were in person, the protocol is people at the end of classes, they can make an offering to the teacher. That's our protocol. And that's what we kind of subsist on. And there's no obligation. And so what some centers have asked is, do you have a way people can donate? So Sunny has Venmo and Zelle of mine and PayPal if you want. And you can either put it up now, or some people put it up at the last class. Either way is great. So thank you if anybody cares, but you can do it at the end. It's good like that.
I'll just put it up now, what I have. There's some other things too.
Thank you. And then some upcoming events as well.
Right.
That's great. So do think about those. That's great. Thank you so much, Sunny. And thank you for hosting. And why don't we stop there for today? And I'm just going to bring up some brief dedication prayers, because we had a motivation in the beginning. And it's really nice as another bookend to dedicate at the end. So basically the dedication is, if we can invest all of our merit, all the positive energy we may have created from this time together, to help us lead more balanced lives with kindness and compassion, to remember our interrelational aspect with all living beings, that interconnectedness, so that we can take care of ourselves with the motivation that we're affecting everybody else, and that we want to help everybody else as well. And may it lead us along a path to becoming Buddhists, becoming fully enlightened beings, because then we're omniscient and fully enabled, totally empowered to benefit all living beings perfectly. So can we really get there and dedicate to that, along with all the wars on the planet ending now, all the pandemics ending and never coming again, to this planet, to all world systems, to all beings. May all beings who need additional healing receive it immediately, completely. I'd really like to dedicate to my my brother-in-law, Nico Preston, who's been having some health issues, to Ross Lasley, all the other beings. There's so many of them that need a lot of healing right now. I'd like to dedicate to them. Marcy Fish in particular, who's in the Philadelphia area, unfortunately losing a battle with ovarian cancer right now. So we can just think of these people. I know you know many more people, and I'm going to bring up these dedication prayers. and I will share my screen. So just let me know if you can't see something. So this is to increase bodhicitta, this enlightened attitude, which is, I want to become a Buddha to benefit all living beings, that good heart that thinks of others first. May the precious supreme bodhicitta not yet born arise. May that arisen not decline, but increase more and more. Similarly with emptiness, may the precious view of emptiness not yet born arise. May that arisen not decline, but increase more and more. And here's a gorgeous picture of His Holiness the Dalai Lama and Lama Zopa Rinpoche. And the long life prayer, short one for His Holiness the Dalai Lama. In the land encircled by snow mountains, you are the source of all happiness and good. All powerful Chenrezig Tenzing Gyatso, please remain until samsara ends. For Lama Zopa Rinpoche, you who uphold the subduer's moral way, who serve as the bountiful bearer of all, sustaining, preserving, and spreading Manjunath's victorious doctrine, who masterfully accomplish magnificent prayers honoring the three jewels, Savior of myself and others, your disciples, please, please live long. So feel free if you'd like to unmute. What I'll be doing is sending a short message to you via Sunny of what to think about this week. And our next class is February 7th. Hope to see you in a week. Thank you so, so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Venerable Amy.
And please be well.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.